All right, I'll make a start. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining Sprint 13 Show and Share. My name's Ben. I work for Maytech, and I'm currently working with Newark and Sherwood on their Housing Repairs Online beta phase 2. So as I said, we just finished Sprint 13, so I'll be showing you some of our achievements today and looking at what our next focuses are. Would you be able to move to the next slide, please, Kristen? Thank you. Just a very quick reminder of why we do these. So the show and share, it does provide a great opportunity for the team, the engineering and delivery team, especially to celebrate what's been achieved, look at demoing any working software and new features that we've released, and also share information on the progress we've made. And most importantly, for you folks to give us feedback and any supporters to give us any messages about the service and ask any questions, of course, as well. Next slide, please. Okay, so what should we cover today? We'll go through the vision, which we do every time to keep everybody focused and understanding what we're doing here. We'll also be allowing the engineering team to give a small demo on some of the new features that we've implemented in the sprint. We also did a tech spike, which we think is of great importance for Newark, but also for future council integrations as well. And also to look at what we achieved in Sprint 13 and what our next focus is. So we'll start with the vision. Okay, so the vision is to design and build a reusable and accessible online repair reporting tool that doesn't require any logon and that preferably a resident will prefer because it meets their needs. A tool that is integratable with various scheduling systems through open, scalable and accessible APIs, enabling the tool to be adopted by local authorities across the UK. Okay, so to start with, we'd like to just show a couple of the things that we've been working on. So we've got 3 particular points here that will be led by Bhavesh and Mesa. If it's okay with you, Kristen, I'm going to just take over for a moment and share my screen, and then we will go through the first part of this. Okay, Bhavesh, I'm going to share my screen now, and I'll bring my notes up. Here we go.
All right, thank you very much, Ben.
No problem.
So the first thing I'm going to discuss is about the reordering of contact and appointment availability pages. And the reasoning for this was based on user research. We found that the participants raised questions around what appointment the contact questions were referring to. I'll highlight that when we get a bit further in the journey. Ben, if you wouldn't mind clicking start. And yep, just selecting something else now. We're trying to report a repair. We're not having an emergency. We're not going into a communal area, so let's click no for now. And do we pay rent to the council? So here we're trying to identify whether the resident is a tenant or a leaseholder. And at this point, we're just going to be a tenant. So we click yes, Ben, and continue. And the property postcode, I think we've seen this on previous show and shares. And here we are searching for searching for addresses, and we find 27 addresses. I don't think you can see those when Ben drops that down, maybe. Oh, no, you can. That's great. So here we have a number of addresses. If we can just pick that first one there, Ben, number 11 Ash Road. And here we see our familiar options for tenant. Where is the problem question? There's 5 options here, and if we just pick outside, Ben, and what is the problem specifically, and we have a number of options here, and we're going to just pick property walls, and on this next page we only have 2, which is and we're going to pick missing or loose brickwork. Thank you, Ben. And here we have, again, no changes here, familiar description box. So if you can just go through these pages and upload as well. Yeah, nothing changed there. So here we can see that we're actually loading and searching for available appointments, whereas previously we had asked for contact details. So we're asking the resident to select their appointment first. And Ben, if you can select any one of these appointments and click continue. And then we ask the question of how should we confirm the appointment. Now this page was before, and that phrasing of how should we confirm the appointment led to those questions. Which appointment? I haven't selected an appointment yet. I don't know when my appointment is. But that was the reason for putting this page afterwards. And here we have the options of entering details to send a text message to or a email. And if at this point we just do text message first, Ben. Any UK mobile number is valid. And here we may have highlighted this at a previous show and share, but we're just showing a can we call the number you entered, and this is to reduce effort on any users to re-enter the same information again. It's about not asking them to enter repeat themselves effectively. And we could either click yes, and we could go through to the summary. And otherwise we can go, so if you just go one back then, or we could select no and have the option to enter another number. But if we go back again, Ben, just to the, this page, and enter an email instead, once we've done that, we won't have a phone number. So we have to ask a different question, which is just what number should we call? And the resident can enter and we can proceed on to the summary page. Okay, that's about it for the reordering of pages of availability and contact information. And now we're going to navigate through the journey and show some leasehold changes. Ben's going backwards through, and I'll highlight why that is. So we'll go back just one more, Ben. So hit this page, we're identifying whether they're a tenant if we click yes, or a leaseholder if we click no. So if we click on no now, now we've retained the previous information that the resident entered, and so the postcode has appeared there. And if you click continue, then here we have added the ability to look up leasehold addresses. So as you can see there in the drop down, we only have 13 addresses, and they are differing from those that we showed for the tenant. And again, they would be differing for communal areas. If we can select the first one in that list, Ben, and click continue. Now, here we're offering different options for leasehold because they differ. The things that the local authority would be responsible for repairing in tenant and communal versus leasehold are different. And our SOAR engine, which is a configurable component, which is configured to highlight which options are showing these pages. So here we only have two options because that's all that is applicable for leasehold journeys. And again, the previously selected option has been retained, so outside has been selected, and you can just click continue, and same again, continue, and once again, continue. So yeah, and the rest of the journey is quite the same. We're not going to have to navigate that anymore. I've highlighted the differences in leasehold that we added during the sprint. Over to you, Mesa.
Brilliant. Thanks for that, Bhavesh. I'll stop sharing now. Mesa, do you want to see if you can take control of the screen?
Yeah, let me try share my screen. 1 second.
Sure.
Right, can you see this?
Yep, I can see it.
Perfect. Okay, so I'm just going to go through the journey and show you the work that we've done this sprint to display communal repairs before a user or a resident reports a new communal repair. So if I click start now, and then again something else, and yeah, so this is a problem in a communal area. So I'm going to go ahead and select yes, and I'll put in a postcode. So if I select this address to begin with, we can see here that there are no communal repairs that have been reported for this location. So I can go ahead and report a new problem, and this takes you through to the triage journey that we looked at the last show and share. So I won't go through that again. But then if I go back and I select an address that I know I've reported a repair for, so we can see here that it displays the repair that already exists in that location. So it prevents residents from re-reporting existing repairs, and it kind of summarizes what the problem is to them. And if this still isn't the repair that they wanted to report, they can still go ahead and report a repair. The difference here between a tenant, a leasehold, or a different type of repair is that it doesn't actually display the date and time of the repair. But yeah, if I click through to report a new repair, again, it takes me through to the triage journey. And I think that's it for this piece of work. So I'm going to stop sharing and I'll hand back over to Kristen.
Brilliant. Thanks, Mesa. Sure, yeah, Kristen, if you could bring up the presentation again. So we're going, perfect, you've already done it. Right, so we'll leave it at this for a moment. So one of the big pieces of work that we did in this sprint was looking at that integration between Capita Housing Management System and the Repairs Online service. So Bhavesh did the spike on this, so I'll hand over so he can explain how we did that.
Thanks, Ben. So the housing management integration was required to go live at Newark, particularly because it resulted without that, it resulted in an insurmountable amount of manual work to add the work order to the housing management system. Integrating with the housing management system would it would match the current flow, that the process flow that is at Newark and at other local authorities. And by integration, we would create a work order in the housing management system, and that ID would be used throughout the Housing Repairs Online housing management system, Capita, and scheduling system, DRS, to identify a requested repair. So the current flow here is shown on screen in the sequence diagram, and here we can see that purpley pinkish box generates a random ID. And this has been fit for purpose so far because we don't create work orders in the housing management system. Housing Repairs Online creates its own identifier, and that is sent to book the appointment within the scheduling system via the scheduling API here, as you can see. And this is also the reference that is shown to the resident at the confirmation page. And henceforth, any repair requests can be referred to by that ID. Now, Kristen, if you wouldn't mind clicking, just to have the transition come through. So this was a desired flow to have Repairs API when a booking request comes in to raise a work order in the housing management via this housing management API in the housing management system, Capita in this case, which would generate a work order ID, and henceforth, from that point, the work order ID would be used to book the appointment in the scheduling API and also to show the resident at the end of their journey. And if they phoned up, that would be the ID to quote for the customer service team to look up their repair request. Capita provides a REST API, which requires a XML body as the payload. And so that was something that we understood from part of this spike and previous work. But during the tech spike, we successfully created a prototype which altered the flow to the one that you can see on screen. So we no longer generate the ID within the Housing Repairs API and instead create a work order in Capita. Upon request, we successfully created a work order in Capita and used that ID to send it through to DRS. It was also saved in the Housing Repairs Online system with that said ID as well. So that has proved fruitful, and it looks interesting. We're going to create some tickets to add to our backlog to address this work. That's it from me. Back over to you, Kristen.
Thanks, Bhavesh. Thanks for taking us through that. So on this slide, I just want to highlight some of the great work that the engineering team have been doing since the 9th of November, so the last 2 weeks. Some of this you'll have just seen in a small demo, but I'll hopefully try and put some of this into context for you as well. The first one was completing that tech spike to prove that it's possible to integrate Capita with our housing management system to create that job first and link it through to scheduling. I think that was a big stumbling block in terms of getting that service the way the council wants it and needs it. So Bhavesh spent nearly a week, I think 4 or 5 days, looking at that with Capita and doing that proof of concept and drawing up the reports as well. So great job on that, Bhavesh. You know, I could understand it, and I'm not technical, and I thought it was really well laid out. So that was a big achievement for us because in the context, in the grand scheme of things, you know, there are multiple housing management systems on the market, Capita just being one of them, and different councils utilize different ones. So if we can replicate this easily or have a method for this, then you know, it opens up doors as well for the product. We also added the leasehold repair type into the service as well, so that we can go on that leasehold repair journey and go through those triage options that Bhavesh showed us before. We also implemented the automatic repair first available appointment repair when using the communal journey. So what that means is, and I know we touched on it in the last show and share, but we took out the ability for a requester when they're requesting a communal repair to be able to book an appointment, mainly because the requester or the tenant wouldn't actually need to be present in the property when that repair was taking place. And there are also SLAs with councils related to different levels of severity, and they'll be able to get to that job within a certain amount of time. So it doesn't actually require the requester to be there. So we took that out, and instead what we do is we just generate a first available appointment in the back end in scheduling, so that it gets scheduled as quick as possible. We now have specific notifications that are sent out over SMS and email as well for the 10 communal and leasehold journeys, and they're slightly different in each of those journeys. So we've got special and specific notifications for them as well. One thing I noticed that we did in this particular sprint is we squashed a lot of bugs as well. Some of the bugs were very good to catch before going out to any kind of line service and affecting any user experience. But I think we've been very good in recognizing those and making sure that we address those as quickly as possible. So we brought forward and squashed 5 bugs in the sprint. We also did, which we couldn't demonstrate, but Mark, one of our engineers, did a lot of back-end work related to API endpoints for the communal journey, and a lot of back-end work for the system in general as well in this sprint. So I just want to give a hats off to Mark as well, because he did a lot of that work. Okay, can we move to the next slide? Thanks, Kristen. Okay, so what does our next 2 weeks look like, and what should our focus be? So if we do a quick recap and summary on what we've achieved so far, the tenant, communal and leasehold journeys are now pretty much complete. There might be a couple of snags, but from a functional perspective, they're all working and those journeys are functional. Now what we need to concentrate on is amend and cancel. So if a tenant or a requester raises an appointment and gets a booking reference, but then need to actually cancel that or change it to another date because it's not convenient, they would have to ring up the council and they would have to do that manually. So this is just adding another string to the bow of the service, making it more user friendly, more available. So we added the functionality where we will be for them to be able to find an appointment based on an address and a reference number, and they'll be able to see those appointments and then make those changes. So the actual work itself is more than just 1-2 week sprints worth of work, but where I think we'll be putting our focus will be the back-end API endpoint work, the work to like find and display an appointment, maybe looking at options to amend or cancel the appointment, and if they choose to amend, what would those available appointments be that they could move it to. There are other things about actually cancelling them and then getting those cancellation confirmations and the amendment confirmations, but from a journey perspective, it's probably more logical for that to come later. So that's what we'll be focusing on. And then the last one there is another important one for the future scalability of the product, and that's looking at NEC, housing management system, and the potential to integrate that with our housing repair service as well. We know NEC is a large product, and it would benefit a lot of councils if we could show proof of concept of that. So that will be part of our focus for the next sprint too, just to make sure that we can prove ease of replication and ease of scalability as well with other councils. Okay, could we move to the next slide, please? Okay, so that's all from what we've achieved this sprint and what we'll be doing over the next 2 weeks. I'll now hand over to, I think, Wendy, who's going to talk about engaging with the project.
Yes, thanks for that, Ben. Before we go, I just want to say that we've had word that Redbridge have now gone live with this since the last show and share. So we'll be looking forward to hearing about their initial setup and everything at the next show and share, hopefully. But so far, they've got some really good feedback from the resident housing panel, which is great. We're asking for anyone who's interested to get in touch with the core team. Any of us can help. We've got all the details on the website, and there's details on how to contact myself or Kristen mainly. We're looking at setting up a memorandum of understanding. I'll be going up there in the next few weeks. But we're also talking about the future funding of this this project and the way forward. So it'd be really, really good to hear from anybody who's interested now, because we're in talks about this in the next few weeks. This blog will be going up on the website in the next day or two, and all the past ones are there as well for anyone to watch or listen to, or just get involved, please. That's all we'll say. Thank you.
Thanks, Wendy. Brilliant. And the last slide is opening up for any questions. So if anyone's got any questions on the demo they saw today, how they might be able to get involved in this and wants to engage with us, or has any questions about the product, then feel free to ask away. Leon, hello.
Hi, Ben. Thanks for the demo today. Bhavesh took us through a re-engineered process for the repairs order creation. Is that something that's going to be replicated with other housing management systems? Do they have the same journey?
That's a good question. We're assuming that it would be similar for other councils, but with them using different scheduling and housing management systems, it is a bit of a case-by-case basis. I think the main aim of what we're doing with this tech spike is to see how replicable this can be. Can this be a common method that we can employ using APIs, or how other we want to use the methodology to be able to integrate with other councils? So far, I think once we've done a bit of an investigation with NEC and see how similar that can be as a solution, I think we'll get a better idea of how easy that is to replicate. Does that answer your question, Leon?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions? Okay, I've waited 7 seconds. Usually 7 seconds of silence is a good indicator. So ways to get in touch, as Wendy went through, you can get in touch with Kristen or Wendy, and also the blog is there for you to be able to look back at previous show and shares as well. So we'll give one last chance for any questions, and then I think we'll finish for the day. Great. Thank you very much for your time, everybody. Really appreciate it. We'll be back in a few weeks with some more stuff.
Thanks.
Thank you.
See you all
Thanks,
later.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.